Okay, so let's go ahead and get started again. I want to step back and emphasize something that I think is an important point to make, is that we're having some really interesting discussions about health and environment and all these things, and a lot of these things are kind of outside of your role of working with the public as a master gardener. So if you got somebody who calls you and says, master gardeners are not going to get into an in-depth discussion with the general public about, controversies around Roundup. Our role is to just stick with pesticides are safe if used according to instructions and used judiciously. And so I just want to make sure everybody's clear on that point. Is that?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't need to go into water that you're not comfortable in.
Yeah, or that's kind of outside the realm of, what your role is. But all that being said, I think it's very useful for you as a master gardener to kind of have that background knowledge. All right, so I think I've covered all that. All right, so as I said, the proposed product goes through this multi-million-dollar, multi-year process to get registered for sale and use, and through comprehensive range of studies, and it leads to this label or this set of instructions. And labels are confusing. Product labels are confusing, not by design, but just because it's a lot of information and it's fine print, and it's talking about, here's what you do if you're dealing with this pest on this crop, and here's what you do if you're dealing with this pest on this crop. So I think it's important to step back and say, okay, what are the general parameters of the information on the label? Because it's going to be, they may not all use the same font or the same color scheme or even the same kind of layout, but they're generally organized in a common fashion, and by law, they're all going to include certain kinds of information. And so let's look at that. It's got to have the name and the active ingredients, the signal word, safety information, directions for use, environmental hazards, storage and disposal, directions for use. It's all going to be there. It's all going to be on the label. And 9 times out of 10, when somebody asks me a question about using a product and they say, well, what about this? How do I do this? It's there. It's in the instructions. It's not like I've got some secret knowledge. 9 times out of 10, the answer is, well, let me pull up the label on the computer and read it to you. Let me Google that for you. And we do that a lot, and it's fine. So let's go into those things more specifically. We're going to talk about each of these points more specifically. All right, so the name is on the label. All right, who can tell me, well, let me just go over it. Okay, so here's a product, and we've got a name here, right? Ortho Ground Clear. All right, so that's the brand name. But then if we look more closely, we've got some names here too. So every chemical, every product is going to have a brand name: Roundup, Glyphos, Lystar, Cleanup, and then it's going to have an active ingredient, which is sometimes referred to by a common name like glyphosate, and sometimes going to be referred to by a chemical name, which in the case of glyphosate is N-phosphonethyl-glycine. I practiced that for a couple hours last night. But it's kind of like medication. You can have a brand name, but then if you look at the common name or the active ingredient, you know, ibuprofen is sold as Motrin and Advil, and then, you know, all the generic versions. And so that's the case with a lot of our pest control products like glyphosate, sold under various brands. So it pays to read the fine print, and sometimes it literally pays to read the fine print because you can find a cheaper generic or off-brand version that does the same thing. And this is pretty interesting, and this information is some years old, and it's I should put some caveats on this slide, but here are the caveats. This was a little exercise that Charlotte Glenn did when she was a county agent, I think probably in Pender County. But she had her Master Gardener group go out to all the retailers and inventory what are all the different brands, but then not only that, you know, so for example, for insecticides, there were 110 different brands, but there were only 23 different active ingredients. So you had a lot of different versions of the same product, and the same with fungicides and herbicides. So that's pretty interesting. All right, so that's one thing you'll find on the label is the name of the product, and that can be a useful tool. If you're like me, take your reading glasses to the store. And you know, so you can read the fine print. So another thing that's on the label is the signal word, and I think this gets to, I think it was your question about how do you choose based on toxicity, right? If you're trying to control a pest and you're trying to go for the least toxic option, how do you choose? And this is one clue, all right? So the signal word, and it's going to be prominent on the front panel of the label. So if it's a bagged product, it will be on the front of the package. If it's in a bottle, it will be on the front. You know, sometimes it's got a little booklet that you have to open up to get all the instructions, but it's going to be there on the outside, on the front. It'll have a signal word, and it's going to have one of three signal words. It's going to have either danger, warning, or caution. And you can see here, danger products, an adult could potentially be killed by a taste to a teaspoon. All right. And then warning is moderately toxic, an adult killed by a teaspoon to 2 tablespoons. And then caution is slightly toxic, adult killed by an ounce to more than a pint. And in many cases, it's a lot more than a pint would take to kill you. So when you have a choice, choose something that's got a caution signal word. And if you're looking at things and the only option is one that has a danger label, maybe you decide you're just going to deal with it or cut that plant down or, you know, live with the pest or whatever. I mean, there's going to be cases where, yeah, you're going to need, you know, in some cases you might need a product that has that. But the other thing is that, generally speaking, most of the products that you're going to find on the homeowner market are going to have a caution or a warning label. But it is interesting, I don't know if the scale is the same for household cleaners, but there are certainly plenty of household cleaners that have the word danger on them. So, you know, we do need to be cautious with these things. So when we can stay at this level, you know, that's a safer bet. All right, so this is a question I get. Is this product going to hurt my children? Check the label, it's on there. And one of the things it's going to tell you is how long do people need to stay out of the treated area. So that's an important piece of information. Same thing, how to protect your pets. It's on the label. How to protect the environment. What specific measures do you need to take? if you have a goldfish pond, is there a potential that it can harm the fish? Is it something that would be harmful to bees? Maybe you got a neighbor that is a beekeeper. How to protect fish, birds, wildlife, bees, physical chemical hazards. Is it corrosive? Is it potentially explosive? And then it's going to have first aid information. So what if you do spill some on your skin or get some in your eye, or and this would be clear negligence, but a child, ingested some. What do you do? Well, it's on the label. Clear instructions on what you need to do. Also, storage information. Anybody see anything wrong with that picture?
It seems.
I'm here. I can't make out specific. Oh, well, that's because the dish detergent was almost empty. Trying to get the last drops out. Yeah.
It's easily accessible. It's under the sink and it's toxic.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that's the answer. And this was staged, okay? I took this morning. I had the product stored in a high cabinet in the laundry room, but I moved it to the sink, and then I moved it back. Yeah, storage information is on there. Disposal information. What do you do with the empty container? What do you do with leftover product? What do you do with excess spray solution? It's all in the on the label. And by the way, this is just a picture I pulled off the internet, public domain. Okay. I didn't violate any copyright issues. But we generally don't handle it this way anymore. This is a very old picture, I think from the 1970s. We actually, and I think across the country, there's a big effort to encourage farmers and other commercial users to recycle the pesticide containers. And don't get alarmed, it's completely separate from the, soda bottle, consumer plastic recycling stream, completely separated. And, they're not made into t-shirts and things like that. But we're getting better, we've gotten a lot better. But this is potentially, safe if the we can hopefully assume that those bottles were triple rinsed or pressure rinsed to remove the residues, and so there should be little danger with that method. But again, we're better about that. So, but anyway, this is what's on the label. What do you do with that stuff? And then directions for you. Yes, sir.
Maybe it's coming up here, but one of the first slides you showed was it said natural, and you hear things like natural and organic. Are there any regulations that say if you're going to put natural or organic or some other, fancy buzz name kind of thing that people will? Is there anything on there that if you say natural, it's got to not have this or have that or whatever, organic or whatever?
Are there regulations? I think what you're asking, are there regulations around the use of the term natural on a pest control product? I don't know.
And how to dispose of it too.
No, well, okay. So, but I think your question is, just to restate it again, are there any regulations regarding the use of natural on a pest control product?
Yeah, I mean, I saw that the one slide said natural, and then it has this name that,
Okay. So the answer to the question about natural is I do not know.
I would just say that food, when you see labeled food, there is a specific definition about what natural or organic.
Right.
And you're not allowed to use that label unless that criteria is met.
Right.
But I don't think that has anything to do with
No, it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't. So I don't know. I'm sure Ashley can find out for you. So. Now, if you're specifically looking for whatever reason for organic products, one of the things that you can look for is a seal from an organization called the Organic Materials Research Institute. OMRI. I really need a
Is
black
there a
board.
USDA designation?
So that Organic Materials Research Institute will, it's an independent certification that, yes, this product is suitable under USDA guidelines for use in organic agriculture. Okay, getting back to this. Okay, Holly, I don't know if I answered your question or if you
But
had a
you're
question.
talking about disposing of things, so would you just dispose of the organic items in the same way you would?
You'd need to follow the instructions.
Read the label.
Yeah, there's
Exactly.
Yeah.
The other question was, I remember when I was trying to get rid of a bunch of stuff, there was no expiration. And if there isn't any expiration, does that mean that those chemicals do not change, the properties do not change, so would it be more potent or less potent, or how does that work?
That's a great question, and I'm going to get to that.
Good.
Promise. If I don't, remind me again. That's a really important question. Okay, so it's going to have directions for use, and part of those directions for use are going to be what pests does it control specifically? Does it control nutsedge, Bermuda grass, chickweed, Japanese beetles, cabbage loopers? It's going to have a list of the specific powdery mildew, cedar apple rust. It'll have that specific list of what it controls. Now, let me do one caveat for that. Sometimes it's always good to go to university or extension data to verify that it does a good job on that pest. All right, because it may claim to control a certain pest, but it may not be the best choice for that specific pest. So it's good to get independent verification. That's where you can call your extension agent or your master gardener after you've been trained, and you guys can use references if that's within the realm of your program and say, well, here's some of your choices, but I found some information that says this is your best choice for controlling that. Plants on which it may be applied. This is really, really important. For any product you choose, check on the label to see, can I use this on turf grass? Can I use it on a tree or a shrub? Is it only specific species of trees and shrubs? Can it be used on vegetable crops or only specific species of vegetables? It's all on there, and ignore that at your peril, okay? Got weeds in my lawn, and I got weeds in my vegetable garden. Here's a weed killer. And you could have, weeds in your lawn tend to be broadleafs, and most of your vegetables are also in the broadleaf plant category. So, yeah, it'll kill the weeds and your tomatoes and your peppers and everything else. So, and also, you're potentially using a product that hasn't been tested for its potential to leave residues, right? So that's really important to choose a product, in the vegetable garden, that you're using products that are labeled for that use, because they've been tested, been through that residue testing. Application method and rate. This is a site I went out to a couple of years ago, I think. Brown patches in the lawn. Is that, fungus? Is that insect damage? And this was a real puzzle. And turned out what had happened was the homeowner was real diligent about maintaining their lawn. And they also had a lawn care service. And so the homeowner went out and did broadleaf weed treatment. And then, the next day, there was a lack of communication. The lawn service came out and did the same treatment. And, probably probably the reason it wasn't widespread is probably when the lawn service was treating, they had some overlap in their application. And so we got some damage from just exceeding the recommended rate. Right? And so when we look at the rate, it might say mix teaspoons per gallon, and then this treats X number of square foot. If that rate doesn't work, then you chose the wrong product or you applied it at the wrong time. So, and applying more is not the solution. Okay? And that's part of where we get pesticides applied correctly and judiciously are safe. Okay? So that's really important. And here again, that rate that's listed on the label, it's all based on that science where they, field conditions. What's the least amount of this product that's going to be effective at managing this particular issue. Reentry interval, sometimes referred to as REI, if you want to, impress your friends. And that is, just like it sounds, how long you need to stay out of the treated area, okay? And that would apply to you, your family members. In many cases, there'll even be an indication for your pets, how long to keep them out of the treated area. So that's a really important piece of information to look at. And it's, if you think about it, so a lot of your homeowner products, they tend to have a caution signal word, which means low toxicity, and they tend to have very short reentry intervals. As a society, I think we really don't want non-professional home gardeners going out and using a lot of really heavy-duty products. We'd rather them use the safer things on the safer end of the spectrum. So a lot of your homeowner products will have a reentry interval that will just say, keep children and pets out of the treated area until the spray dries. All right? And on a hot sunny day, that could be 30 minutes. It could be very short. Or if you're using a granular product, it may be keep children and pets out of the treated area until the dust settles. That information may be on the quiz. Okay? And if you think about it, if you've made a treatment, well, let's say you sprayed your lawn for broadleaf weeds, and your kids are just itching to get out there and play soccer on your beautiful lawn, okay? But you just made a treatment, and you're thinking to yourself, 30 minutes, how could that possibly be safe? They're going to be, running around, kids going to fall on the ground, potentially. They're wearing shorts. But if you think about it, the risk is absorption through the skin with that particular scenario. The risk is absorption through the skin. And so if the kids run out there barefoot right after it's been sprayed and the spray is still wet, then that's a many times greater risk of absorption through the skin versus after it's dried, right? And so that's the kind of science that goes into making those determinations. Pre-harvest interval, vitally important for those of you who are raising food crops and using pesticides. How long do you need to wait between the application and the harvest? And with something like carbaryl or insecticidal soap or dipel, it may be actually 0 days. There are products that will have a 0-day harvest interval, which means that you can spray the product and harvest that same day. And yeah, you want to rinse off your produce with water before you eat it. But some products may have, you know, a 1 week harvest interval, or 2 weeks, or a month. You know, there might, and here again, generally, the products with longer harvest intervals are more commonly found in the commercial market versus the consumer. But you may run across one that does have a long harvest interval. So you need to know that. That's really important. Pesticides safe if used judiciously and correctly. So that's some of what's on the label. I think there's more. Just a couple of terms. When we talk about pesticide formulations, you may have granular products, and it's really important that you pay attention to that application method, because some granules would be mixed with water and some would be applied as the granule to the site. So you need to know that to know which is going to work. You might have a powder or a dust. So the question, is it applied as a dust or is it mixed with water? Now here's a choice that might help you stay a little bit safer. Do you think it would be safer to use, if you had two products, the same signal word, same efficacy on the given pest, one was a dust, one was a liquid, which do you choose? Liquid. Who said that? Why would you choose the liquid?
That's a slight breeze will just get into the air. You can breathe out more readily than
Yeah.
just drop.
Yeah. With the spray, you can more easily control, you know, that kind of exposure. Yeah, absolutely. If it's a liquid, did the product you purchase, is it a concentrate that you need to mix with water, or is it already diluted and it's just ready to spray? So understanding what you're buying, and then we also have bait products that, you know, like fire ant bait that the ants have to consume. Another term that's helpful is persistence, and that's the length of the time the product remains active after application, as you can see. And so from a environmental standpoint, we want something that we spray out, kills the pest, and then instantly, you know, breaks down into, you know, has zero persistence after it does its job. From a convenience standpoint, sometimes it's nice, you know, to use the preen, and you get 3 months of weed control. You know, that's handy. So, you know, pros and cons there, but just understanding that concept. Right. And so this gets to the question of, is it already diluted into ready to spray form, or is it a concentrate? And making sure you know what you're buying. You know, you see the Roundup in the gallon jug, and you see the Roundup in the quart jug, but the quart jug is concentrate, and the Roundup in the gallon is, you know, pre-mixed. You're actually getting more value buying the concentrate. However, buying that ready-to-use formulation eliminates you having to mix the product. And when you're mixing, so it's one thing, let's say you're dealing with a product that that, you know, burns the skin a little bit, which you're probably not going to run into in a homeowner situation anyway. But let's just say you are. Would you rather get the concentrate on your hand, or would you rather get the spray solution? You'd rather get the spray solution, right? I mean, you'd rather not get either, but if there's a spill, you know, you trip or whatever. So the mixing step, where you're pouring the concentrate into the applicator, you know, you trip and the bottle spills, you've got a mess of that concentrated product. or again, you spill it and you get it on your clothing or your body, versus a diluted spray solution. It's just much less risky. So even though these ready-to-use formulations that come with the trigger sprayer already attached, even though they're more expensive, by volume, I think in many, many cases they're a better choice for home gardeners. There's no mixing. You're not, you've eliminated potential for exposure to the concentrate. And also, when you buy the concentrate, you might get a little quart bottle, but how many times have you bought a little quart bottle and you only needed 2 tablespoons, and then 3 years later, I've never had to use that again, And so then you got this bottle of, that you haven't used. Okay, now I've got to figure out how to dispose of it. So I think the ready to use it, and this product is actually a concentrate, but it's attached. It's one of those hose-in sprayer contraptions. So even though it's a concentrate, I still consider this. And it says right on here, ready to spray. You just hook it up to the garden hose, and there's no mixing. So, big fan of ready-to-use formulations. Okay, so now we're going to have a little exercise. And I have a product label here, and I want you to, I've got 10 questions that I want you to answer. I made 40 copies, so I think there's probably just enough for everybody to take one. But if you want to work with your table mate and just take one, you can. It's up to you. And I would like to have those back. Let me make sure everybody heard that. I would like to get these labels back so I can use them again. And there's really no value to you to keep it. So. So the questions.
Yeah.
Here's your first 5 questions.
Yeah. We'll just share one. Yeah.
And you need to get at least 8 out of 10 right, or you completely fail the class. Just kidding. No.
Yeah.